YouTubers, and welcome to Level-Headed News. This is your host, Brenda. I have 18 articles in this episode for you, and all the URLs are in the description of the video for your convenience. Started with it here. The first one is off of allnewspipeline.com, and it says the dominoes are beginning to fall. Another swamp monster, former State Department employee, is arrested. Media is still busy lamenting over Russia and breathlessly waiting to Trump tweet. What they haven't spent much time on is a recent arrest and charging of a former State Department employee, Marie Claiborne. Top secret security clearance and economic information to Chinese foreign intelligence agents in exchange for gifts and bribes. Proceeded to obstruct the investigation into said legal actions, in charge for that obstruction on March 28th of 2017. Department of Justice official press release dated March the 29th of 2017 to the affidavit in support of the complaint and arrest warrant sealed today. Claiborne began working as an office management specialist for the Department of State in 1999. She has served overseas at a number of posts, including embassies and consulates in Iraq, Qatar, Beijing, and Shanghai, China. As a condition of her employment, Claiborne maintains a top security clearance. Claiborne also is required to report any contacts with persons suspected of affiliation with a foreign intelligence agency. To requirement, the affidavit, Claiborne failed to report repeated contacts with two intelligence. Bit on me here. Under control. Hang on. So we got a control here. Well, come on, hamster. Despite such a requirement, the affidavit alleges Claiborne failed to report repeated contacts with two intelligence agents of the People's Republic of China, or the PRC, even though these agents provided tens of thousands of dollars in gifts and benefits to Claiborne and her family over 5 years. According to the affidavit, the gifts included cash wired to Claiborne's USAA account, an Apple iPhone and laptop computer, Chinese New Year's gifts, meals, international travel and vacation, tuition at a Chinese fashion school, a fully furnished apartment, monthly stipend. Some of these gifts and benefits were provided directly to Claiborne, the affidavit alleges, while others were provided through a co-conspirator. David Claiborne noted in her journal that she could generate $20,000 in 1 year working with PRC agents who, shortly after wiring $2,480 to Claiborne, tasked her with providing internal analysis on U.S. economic dialogue. Concluded. Allegedly confided to a co-conspirator that the PRC agents were spies, willfully misled State Department background investigators and FBI investigators about her contacts with those agents, the affiliate states. The State Department and the FBI investigators contacted her. Claiborne also instructed her co-conspirators to delete evidence connecting her to the PRC agents, the affidavit alleges. A 59-page complaint can be found at SCRBD at the bottom of this article, and there is a link here where you can click to read that. Draining the swamp. Hand wringing across the internet by Trump supporters as he chose cabinet members and advisors, with much discussion on who he chose for for that position, claiming his pledge to drain the swamp was being broken by bringing in members of the community that were wealthy or lobbyists or big business or whatever some might consider as part of the swamp. But as a non-political figure, many of us believe that Trump references to the swamp during his campaign meant corrupt individuals inside Washington, and this falls directly in line with what we have noted previously. That has included demands for resignations of 46 Obama-era holdover U.S. attorneys, followed by the second round of purges at the State Department in mid-February, when State Secretary of State Rex Tillerson deconstructed the seventh floor shadow government, as well as removal of the acting attorney before Jeff Sessions was confirmed by the Senate. The same day, Trump replaced Daniel Ragsdale in his role as acting director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. The swamp monsters are being drained. Why aren't the MSM all over this? I had the limited reporting on this. News organizations off to file their next report Russia related, rather than delving into exactly what type of information Claiborne had shared with the Chinese. How much damage uh, it did or did not do? Who her unnamed co-conspirator was? The answers are easy. Number one, the dates time started in 2011 while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. Remember, the Clintons have a long history of scandal association with the Clinton presidency, including Bill Clinton handing China our missile technology and the 1996 campaign finance contribution controversy. With all this talk of Russian interfering in the U.S. elections, that it wasn't too long ago that the previous Democrat in the White House betrayed America by working hand in hand with our communist enemies in mainland China, as President Bill Clinton essentially wiped out any strategic advantage the U.S. had by selling advanced U.S. missile technology to our enemy, the People's Republic of China. The dates of the obstruction, according to the complaint, was 10/1/2014 through 8/24 of 2016 under the Obama administration. It doesn't fit into the Russian narrative the MSM wants to focus on. Doubt that if this was the year 2018 or 2019 and someone in the State Department under the Trump administration with top secret clearance was caught selling information to a foreign entity, it would be headline news for weeks or months, with every other story from media addressing one manufacturer. So where are they on this? Twisting themselves into pretzels in an attempt to keep the Russian collusion story alive, while at the same time trying to avoid the fact that more and more information is being revealed that someone high up in the Obama administration illegally unmasked the names of American citizens, then deliberately through the intelligence community. Media says NSA Director Admiral Mike Rogers told the House Intelligence Committee in an open hearing this month that 20 people in his agency have the authority to unmask U.S. names in FISA collection reports. We use two criteria. We need to know the person requesting execution of their official duties. And part was necessary to truly understand the context of the intelligent value is designed to generate, he said. The collection surveillance names being unmasked. This had nothing to do with Russia, I'm told, or foreign intelligence of any kind, Housley said, when originally discussing the documents, that they were not connected to the Russian investigation. Concern here is not only the unmasking of the names, but the spreading of the names for political purposes that had nothing to do with national security and everything to do with hurting and embarrassing the Trump transition and his team, Housley said. Is it a coincidence that after months of the liberal media going on ad nauseum about Russia and the 2016 election, it took just rapid tweets from Trump to turn the story to Americans being unmasked by the intelligence officials. Still bemoan Trump's use of Twitter. Reminder that he has played the media from day one, using their own bias against them to make fools of them by forcing them to make fools of themselves. Swamp monster has been drained. Trump is cutting Obama-era regulations left and right. He withdrew the U.S. from the TPP, implemented a federal hiring freeze, limiting abortion funding overseas, revoked Obama's transgender bathroom guidance for schools, ordered the State Department to cut UN funding, is trying to cut the EPA budget by a quarter, is working towards cutting off federal funding for sanctuary cities, and much, much more, while MSM is still busy screaming Russia, Russia, Russia from the rooftops. There is the document that they said that they would have embedded at the bottom of this, the criminal complaint, up to read that for yourself. Article that I have of the Hill, the hamster to roll it up here. Already had to use the paddle, bring him back to life. If the audio is working, I don't know. My sound stuff isn't working properly. It doesn't appear here, so I don't know. It's a shot happens. I may only do do the rest of them in a second edition, just to make sure the audio is working right, because I don't want to be sitting here reading for an hour and a half and find out that I didn't have any audio. This one's off the Hill. It says diplomats instructed to avoid eye contact with Tillerson. Report. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson has remained relatively removed from President Trump's administration in his own department. A new report by the Washington Post says, adding that many diplomats have yet to meet him, and some have been told to avoid eye contact. Reads, the most of his interactions are with an of political aides who are new to the State Department. Diplomats say they still have not met him, and some have been instructed not to speak to him directly or even make eye contact. Below profile since the inauguration, he has made very few remarks to the press and opted not to press pool. Earlier this month, Tillerson stood by his decision not to allow reporters to travel with him on his trip to Asia, calling himself not a big media press access person. Aaron McPike of the right-leaning independent journal Review, the only reporter selected by the state to travel with Tillerson, pressed the diplomat about his decision in the interview. McPike noted China restricts press access and asked whether he's concerned about the message he's sending. The decision not more reporters had to do with a desire to save money, saying the plane flies faster, allows me to be more efficient with fewer people on it. Tillerson also skipped the customary visits to overseas state employees and their families during his travels. The next article is off of BizPac Review. It says psychologists analyze post-election America will stop if we do this. Tumultuous. Try that again. Sifting through the tumultuous President Donald Trump's election, a former clinical psychologist steeped in understanding cultural Marxism shares his observations on how Democrats are working to distract Trump. According to Tim Dowry, Waking the Sleeping Giant, our election since 2010 demonstrates citizens want Washington to stop governing against the will of the people as it toward liberal progressive socialism. 2016 ballot box message, he says, was change course, secure our borders, get rid of Obamacare, put in some free market reforms, get our economy going again. With this man held elective office. Daugherty says America is clearly facing a crisis over the consent of the governed as citizens demand a responsive national government, just as British of the European Union in their surprising Brexit vote last June. Trump's inaugural address echoed this very theme as to cheers he promised to transfer power back to the citizen from a small Washington elite. The establishment protected itself, but not the citizens of the country. Their victories have not been your victories, Trump said, echoing his defense of the forgotten man and woman who elected him. Swamp-like behavior continues, Daugherty predicts, conditioned apathy and America being founded on the core principle of the consent of the governed, as elections will demonstrate to have no consequences. Daugherty revealed three political warfare tactics of the left being used in our culture and politics to distract and delegitimize President Trump: a pigpen strategy, vilification campaigns, and gaslighting. From the old Peanuts cartoons comes from the effort to throw a cloud of innuendo, doubt, and even the impression of corruption around Trump. The rise of vilification campaigns, Saul Alinsky, is reducing our civility as Democrats try to destroy, not debate, those who disagree with them, Daugherty explains. Gaslighting, as arguments like the Russians hacked the election or Putin is controlling President Trump attempt to manipulate public opinion. Reality dislocation techniques can erode Trump's approval ratings so as to slow the bold Trump mandates. Daugherty suggests Republicans go on the offense with Russia, citing an example from Clinton Cash, where Russians gained enormous power over America's uranium, threatening our national security interests through donations to the Clinton Foundation. Would just expand the Russian investigation, Americans could get to the bottom of Putin's use of foreign money and inside to influence policies, not just our elections. Commenting on our culture and the sensitive snowflakes on American campuses, Daugherty says no violent revolution was needed to hurry along a socialist America. Instead, cultural Marxists have pursued a long march through the institutions that has America on the tipping point to socialism now. They have pushed through our cultural institutions. They have eroded individual liberty. They have separated the American people from the idea of our Constitution and our founding ideas. They are so close to the socialist agenda right now that Daugherty says he thinks Ohio Governor John Kasich or former Florida Governor Jeb Bush had been elected, would be framed as fascist from the Democrats' playbook. Daugherty has only one suggestion after praising Trump for his early efforts to secure the borders, bring about regulatory reform, confront political correctness, and submit a bold federal budget and reform plan. The capital to confront the deep state, the shadow government, and permanent bureaucracy trying to sabotage his presidency with malicious leaks and slow walking. The former psychologist also thinks Trump got bad advice on supporting Obamacare light Ryan. Instead of fighting the House Freedom Caucus Republicans, which represent his allies, and the forgotten man, voters, government, the White House should have started bold with free market reforms and then getting votes. Trump will learn from his error. Exclusive video interview for the Daily Caller News Foundation, Daugherty gives an encouraging pep talk to citizens who are demanding their government listen to them. This article is off of BizPac Review. See here what it has to say. ACLU wants school police to be unarmed because guns send a negative message. Civil Liberties Union wants school police to be unarmed of the Pennsylvania chapter to wrote a piece for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette that called for disarming of school police. It was subsequently republished and tweeted by the organization, having officers patrol the hallways with firearms sends a negative message to students, he wrote. Students feel that they are being treated like suspects. It can have attitudes about police in general. Can have an impact on people like Adam Lanza, who slaughtered 26 people at Sandy Hook Elementary School and his mother at home in 2012, or Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, who killed 13 at the Columbine High School in 1999, or killers in the plethora of school shootings that have happened in the past 2 decades. But the ACLU is more concerned with sending a negative message or hurting the feelings than it is about saving the lives of children. Not security zones or criminal justice institutions, and they should not be staffed that way, Jordan argued. Social media agreed. Real question here, is there such a thing as unarmed police officer? Another one says, ACLU disagree. As a teacher, I can tell you it's the individual officer that creates security, not, try this again. It's the individual officer that creates security or fear, not the weapon, another tweets. Another one says, ACLU, but it would be okay if the trenchcoat mafia, Mr. Tottenberg, friendly, picked up a PlayStation. ACLU, you're all about protecting people's rights, but don't want people to be able to use one of their amendment rights. What's up with that? Another one says, ACLU, you forgot so easily the loss of life from school shootings and those saved by a gun-carrying officer. High horse. Another one says, ACLU, guns should only be protecting important things like celebrities and money in banks. As ACLU, I'm going to have to disagree with you guys on this. Too many dangerous people try to shoot up schools, and they'd be to respond. Another one says, ACLU, I'm sorry, but is there anyone armed in schools? It's a professional who is highly trained. So there's that article. Here is off of Rutgers Tech Review. It says, here are the 7 major pieces of Obama's environmental legacy Trump has already repealed. Signed executive order and new legislation this week that replaced much of President Obama's environmental legacy. Trump eliminated the Power Clean PPP, as well as rules and regulations from several different federal agencies that had been implemented as part of Obama's environmental agenda. The Clean Power Plan to be overturned, but were surprised at the breadth of executive order. Kathleen, Vice President for Government at the Western, told the Daily Caller News Foundation. It comprehensively clears out some of the regulatory overreach of the Obama administration about federal control in the guise of environmental protection. Repealing those rules requires months, if not years, of rulemaking and the inevitable on litigation before they will be completely gone, Sagma continued. Here are 7 parts of the Obama environmental legacy Trump turned back. Number 1, stopped the Clean Power Plan, Environmental Protection Agency, to revisit Obama's CPP. Rolling back these rules and regulations should get the U.S. closer to energy independence and spur job growth. If implemented, CPP a staggering $41 billion annually, which equates to about $10.74 a month for each American. 39% of Americans would be willing to spend that level of extra cash to fight global warming, according to a poll. The Clean Power Plan would have only averted 0.19 degrees Celsius of warming 2100. An amount so small it can't be detected, according to analysis by the libertarian Cato Institute using models created by the Environmental Protection Agency. Eliminate the CPP, drawing criticism from environmentalists and Democrats, but earning praise from coal miners and companies who want to stay in business. Number two, changing how the government interprets the National Environmental Policy Act. An executive order issued by Trump this week simplified a complex environmental process implemented under Obama. The shift alters how the federal government interprets the National Environmental Policy Act, called the NEPA, for companies, individuals, and government entities to get environmental permits. Changed the way the government interprets the act in a very difficult and enabled environmental lawyers to easily sue the government. Was accomplished with the stroke of a pen, since it was just a stroke of Obama's pen that put it in place, Sagman told the DCNF. However, several policies put in place by the agency, 29 by our count, will still need to be unraveled. Since most did not go through the formal rulemaking process, it will be easier for federal agencies to prepare environmental assessments or environmental impact statements before undertaking any major policy changes. Strict coal mining regulations. We rolled back the Department of Interior's steam protection rule, which was rushed onto the books shortly before Obama left office. The rule makes it much harder for coal on federal lands. U.S. coal production is already rising again, and it could bring jobs back with it, according to a Wednesday report from the Federal Energy Information Administration, called the EIA. Got a shot at it under Trump. Jeff Kepler, coal company Longview Power, previously told the Daily Caller News Foundation. One, the requirements of the Clean Power Plan and the inability to replace old plants would have eventually just killed coal entirely in the 2020s. America has 83,000 fewer coal jobs and 400 fewer coal mines than it did when Obama was elected in 2008, demonstrating the former president followed through on his pledge to bankrupt the coal industry. Number four, EPA denying green request to have agency ban major pesticide. Trump appointed EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt formally rejected a petition to ban a pesticide called, and I'm not sure how this is pronounced, so bear with me, chlorpyrifos, Wednesday, calling it crucial to U.S. agriculture. During the Obama administration, heavy environmentalist pressure caused the EPA to consider banning chlorpyrifos over concerns that it contaminates drinking water and food. However, the EPA's own analysis found that there do not appear to be risk from exposure to pyrifos in food. The agency's own website says chlorpyrifos is safe for humans in standard amounts. Chlorpyrifos has been used on citrus fruits, apples, broccoli, and various other crops since 1965. U.S. farms use about 6 million pounds of chlorpyrifos each year. If nothing had changed, they would no longer have allowed it. Trace amounts of chlorpyrifos in food, effectively banning the pesticide in the U.S. Simplifying how public lands are managed. Trump signed legislation Monday repealing the Bureau of Land Management's Planning 2.0 rule. BLM and Democrats claim the rule would help federal agencies better take care of public lands, while the rule's critics claim it seizes power from local officials and makes energy development much more difficult. 2.0 took effect in December, so it never really had a chance to be implemented. Critics of the rule say that's a good thing. The BLM Planning 2.0 rule would have layered on more redundant environmental analysis under the National Environmental Policy Act, called NEPA, resulting in more multi-year delays to projects, Segma continued. Other agency restrictions to energy development on federal lands would create 2.7 million jobs and add $663 billion to the economy each year, for the next 30 years, according to a new study published in December by Louisiana State University and the Free Market Institute for Energy Research. Approving Keystone XL. The Trump administration approved the final stages of Keystone XL oil pipeline earlier this month, only 16 months after the Obama administration rejected the project over concerns it would tarnish the U.S.'s environmentalist reputation. The company behind the pipeline submitted an application to build the Keystone XL in September of 2008, and the Obama administration rejected the pipeline in late 2015. The Department of State granted TransCanada, the company building Keystone XL, permission to construct, operate, and maintain pipeline facilities at the U.S.-Canadian border in Phillips County, Montana, for the importation of crude oil. Number 7, returning environmental regulation to the states. Trump signed legislation earlier this month repealing a major last-minute Obama-era regulation limiting hunting and fishing in Alaska. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service issued a rule toward the end of the Obama administration called Assistance Wildlife and Public Participation and Closure Procedures on National Wildlife Refuges, WR, in Alaska. The state government disliked the rule, claiming that it created a system of top-down decision-making from the federal government that was the exact opposite of what previous legislation intended. Alaska previously filed a lawsuit against the Department of the Interior and the WS to overturn it, saying that Obama had significantly reinterpreted federal law to effectively, sharply limit hunting in the state. Next article I have for you is off the Gateway Pundit. A hamster. Well, Goose the hamster. I don't want to have to get the paddles out again and try to resuscitate him. He's running as fast as he can go. Sound is working here. Let's hope so. Well, let's see. I don't know what's taking the hamster so long here with this. For some reason, he's on the job. Tell you what, we'll just skip that one and come back to it. This one I've got for you is off of InfoWars. It says, behind fake news on internet privacy. By Google and George Soros, a group of leftist foundations have organized a fake news war against the GOP, claiming that Republicans have voted to overturn Obama administration FCC rules designed to protect internet privacy. 3 entities, Google, Society Institute, and the Ford Foundation, have contributed more than $72 million since roughly 2006 to nonprofits that have been most active in pushing net neutrality, as well as privacy rules on the broadband industry to give the government a firm foothold in regulating the internet. Amounts were gathered from public resources, nonprofit 990 tax forms, the nonprofit's webpage, and other public sources. A 2015 study released by the Media Research Center estimated that the Ford Foundation and the Soros Open Society Foundations alone had contributed more than $196 million to neutrality groups between 2000 and 2013, funding various efforts launched Netroots Nation, the leftist internet political activist convention originally launched by daily cost readers and writers. And for ISP and broadband providers should be self-evident. The draconian privacy rules only apply to Google's competitors in the broadband industry, leaving Google arguably the world's worst violator of online privacy, virtually unscathed. Google, one of the most powerful companies in the world, and routinely preaches an ethos of openness and transparency, is surprisingly non-transparent when it comes to its own contributions to organizations that support government takeover of the internet. Transparency web page. It is largely of nonprofit, offering no details of the often staggering amounts of funding it provides to the groups that support its public. The truth is, Google and Soros are pushing a complete distortion of the issue in fake news war launched against the GOP on issues including net neutrality and internet privacy. The truth is, the left wants to control the internet of conservatives, while Google has made millions of dollars quietly selling to third parties the massive amount of information Google has harvested web browsing and collecting GSP location data, typically without the knowledge or consent of Google users. What truly is involved with the internet privacy issue traces back to the last hour effort by the Obama getting the Democratic Party controlled Federal Communications Commission to rule on October the 27th of 2016 that the internet providers like Verizon, Comcast Corp, and AT&T had to obtain prior authorization from customers to market information mined from a customer's web browsing activity before selling that data to third parties. Revealed the truth about the party House vote on Thursday to overturn this rule was that the Obama administration last October was attempting to move regulation of privacy issues into the domain of the FCC, Federal Trade Commission. Has traditionally resided. Already has the ability to oversee privacy with broadband providers. Representative Marsha Blackburn, Republican of Tennessee, explained to Breitbart.com. That is done primarily through Section 222 of the Communications Act. An additional authority is granted through Sections 201 and 202. Now, what they did was to go outside of their bounds and expand on that. They did a swipe at the jurisdiction of the Federal Trade Commission. They have traditionally been our nation's primary privacy regulator, and they have done a very good job of it. What the GOP did by overturning the FCC privacy was to Obama administration's overreach, preventing the Obama administration from expanding the authority to regulate the internet, such that censorship rules, privacy regulations, should the Democrats resume control of the White House in the future. He did not want the FCC, the traditional regulation of communications technology, including radio and television, to reach into established authority to regulate privacy issues. The GOP recalled the FCC rules and gave authority back to the FTC. The FTC has the ability to protect consumers. They are the primary regulator, Blackburn told Breitbart, and ISP begins to sell that data. Complaints filed, and the FCC would go after the broadband provider under the regulations that are on the books. On this, if you want to take a look at it, Gross, and what he has to say about this. And let's see here. That other one to come up. So it says Business Pack Review. Did you miss the unafraid gay Muslim dance party in front of Ivanka Trump's house last night? Love to protest, even when they're confused about who or what they're protesting. LGBTQ activists stormed Ivanka Trump's Washington, D.C. neighborhood on Saturday to protest climate change. They obviously don't realize that Ivanka supports gay rights and environmental causes. In a Facebook post, the group described the protest as a dance party to send a clear message that our climate and our communities matter. Gay rights have to do with climate change, but logic was never a leftist strong suit, so we'll just leave it at that. Event was chronicled on Twitter by Media Research Center's Ashley Ray Goldenberg, who posted photos and videos of the motley crew of protesters. Tweet says, I got some pretty good footage. I'll be filing a story soon. Tweet says the logistics of the gay dance party in front of Ivanka Trump's house. This crowd demanded that Ivanka come out of her house, even though she was away in New York this weekend. The raunchous mob shouted, played loud music, and danced in front of Ivanka's home, annoying her neighbors with trash. In addition to slamming Ivanka, who's pro-gay rights and environmental causes, the anarchists also slammed Russia and Vladimir Putin. Tweets, tidbit not on the video, we passed the Russian embassy and people yelling F Russia and F Putin. Ray Goldenberg posted this ironic photo of gay Muslim protester declaring he's Muslim, gay, and unafraid. The anti-climate change queer dance party marched to Ivanka Trump's house. Post the picture. Goldenberg pointed out that the gay Muslim can be unafraid in the United States because gays don't get killed for being homosexual like they do in Muslim countries. Tweets, that's why he's unafraid. He's an American. He knows nothing bad will happen to him for being gay and Muslim. Tweets, just another day in Islam. Man thrown to his death and then pelted with rocks, all because he was gay. Another one tweets, awesome. You should totally paint a Muslim hand, others' hands, or throwing them off a roof if they're gay. Was obviously poorly organized because Ivanka wasn't even at home this weekend. According to her Instagram account, Ivanka was in New York on Saturday, where she hosted her son Theodore's first birthday party. The view from the window clearly is from Trump Tower. A picture of that here if you want to see it. It says, police said the protest ended peacefully after a few hours. It's unclear what the event accomplished except to annoy Ivanka's neighbors, most of whom are liberals, based on the demographics of her DC neighborhood. And to follow that up, I've got this one. This is also off of BizPack Review. It says, watch Ivanka Trump's feisty 82-year-old ticked-off neighbor challenge dance party mob to a fight. Stop shooting themselves in the foot. ET activists stormed Ivanka Trump's Washington, D.C. neighborhood Saturday to protest climate change and wound up infuriating her liberal neighbors in the Tony suburb of Kalorama, where Obama lives. An enraged 82-year-old man who was upset by the noise and pollution and threatened to beat him up if he doesn't leave. Do something, the man yelled at a bystander. Get out of here. Do you want to get your effing face hit? Do you want to fight with an 82-year-old man? Of this, if you want to see the altercation. As Ashley Ray tweets out, the neighbors around Ivanka Trump's house are upset. One of them started yelling at my friend who was just recording with me to leave. Ray Goldenberg, a reporter for Media Research Center, chronicled the heated exchange on Twitter. She and her friend, the guy getting yelled at, caught in the crosshairs of angry neighbors who mistook them for protesters. You can't blame the older gentleman for being upset. That neighborhood was invaded by a mob of obnoxious, noisy protesters. Making the protest even more inane is the fact that its target was not even home this weekend. On Saturday, Ivanka celebrated her son Theodore's birthday in New York. In an Instagram photo she posted from his party, you can clearly see the view from Trump Tower on the Fifth Avenue in the background. It says Ivanka's neighbors in the liberal suburb recently complained their family is disrupting the neighborhood by causing parking problems and trash buildup. Wondered if her leftist neighbors will complain now, since liberal protesters are the ones disturbing the peace. And out how stupid it is, Ivanka, who actually supports gay rights and environmental causes. And there's a list of tweets on that if you would like to pull that one up yourself. And Gateway Pundit still aren't up. I don't know what the deal is, but this one's off BizPack Review. Maybe if I get some of the decks cleaned, it'll clear stuff up for that. I don't know. Judge rules against Trump, says it's possible to get him out of here, ordered incited at campaign rally. And what's starting to look like a trend, a federal judge has once again ruled against President Donald Trump, this time rejecting a free speech defense against a lawsuit accusing him of inciting violence against protesters at a 2016 campaign rally in Louisville, Kentucky. Several anti-Trump protesters who disrupted the event filed suit afterward, saying the candidate fostered an atmosphere of violence after they were pushed and shoved by, Trump said from the podium at the time, "Get him out of here." Associated Press says Trump's lawyers sought to dismiss the lawsuit by three protesters who say they were roughed up by his supporters at a March 1, 2016 rally in Louisville, Kentucky. They argued that Trump didn't intend for his supporters to use force. Two women and a man say they were shoved and punched by audience members at a end. Much of it was captured on video and widely broadcast during the campaign, showing Trump pointing at the protesters and repeating out. The moment in question can be seen in a video article. It says, while a reasonable argument could be made that Trump was speaking to security personnel, Louisville Judge David J. Hale saw it differently. It is plausible that Trump's direction to get him out of here advocated the use of force, Hale wrote in his decision. It was an order, an instruction, a command. The judge also declined to remove allegations that one of the anti-Trump was a victim of racial, ethnic, and sexual slurs from the crowd, according to the AP. Themselves are repulsive to show the atmosphere in which the alleged events occurred, Hale wrote. Support claims of negligence and incitement by Trump and his campaign. Can't make this stuff up. What's wrong with these people? And if you go someplace where you know you're going to be met with hostility, should you be allowed to case the crap kicked out of you? Should have stayed home. Goodness gracious. Oh, but then that would involve common sense, wouldn't it? Let's see. This is off of BizPack Review. It says, if this is true, much bigger, Trump sees and immediately tweets his concern. Watching Fox News on Saturday when something caught his eye. Wow, at Fox News, just reporting big news. Source, official behind unmasking is high up. Is responsible. Some unmasked, not associated with Russia. Fight on before he was nominated, he wrote in two tweets. If this is true, does not get much bigger for U.S. The report the president was referring to involved the source in Fox News that the person who unmasked the identities of private citizens on President Trump transition team was someone very well known, very high up, very senior in the intelligence world. Sources have told Fox News that House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes knows who the culprit is. in this case is not only unmasking of these names of private citizens, but the spreading of these names for political purposes that have nothing to do with national security or an investigation into Russia's interference in the U.S. election. A source with close ties to the investigation told Fox. The tweets came after former Obama administration official Evelyn Farkas appeared to admit knowledge of the Obama administration spying on the president's transition team. It kicked off the morning by tweeting about Sleepy Eyes Chuck Todd started calling the NBC mouthpiece back in 2012. And the tweet says, "When will Sleepy Eyes Chuck Todd and NBC News start talking about the Obama surveillance scandal and stop with the fake Trump-Russia story? Is the same fake news media that said there is no path to victory for Trump pushing the phony Russian story a total scam?" The article I have is off BizPack Review. It says, "Fire this man now. Trump's social media director lands in hot water after Saturday tweet." No one had ever heard of Representative Justin Amash. Around with President Donald Trump has suddenly thrown the Michigan Republican's name into the limelight. Other members of the House Freedom Caucus declined to vote for the president's American Health Care Act, and the president is taking aim at the conservative group of lawmakers, particularly Amash, because of his vocal distaste for the bill. Vino, the president's social media director, threw a volley of shots at Amash, and as a result, Trump senior advisor found himself in legal hot water. Amash is a troll. Scavino claimed that he was putting politics ahead of his Michigan constituents. Friday, just saw Never Trump Freedom Caucus troll Justin Amash of Michigan comments didn't vote for EA because he puts politics before Michigan. He followed up his Saturday by calling for a fellow Republican to challenge him in the 2018 primary, and that's what got him into trouble. Vito tweeted, "Real Donald Trump is bringing auto plants and jobs back to Michigan. Justin Amash is a big liability. Trump train him in primary." But by calling for a primary challenge, Gavino may have violated the Hatch Act, a law regulating campaigning by government officials. Richard Painter, a George W. Bush White House ethics attorney, tweeted that Scavino should be discharged. Office of Special Counsel should be alerted. It's out. Look at the official photo on this page. Read the Hatch Act now. Someone call Amash was also hit from another quarter. White House budget chief Mick Mulvaney, a former member of the South Carolina congressional delegation and co-founder of the House Freedom Caucus, a presidential intermediary, although the message was delivered by Representative Mark Sanford. "The president asked me to look you square in the eyes and to say that he hoped that you voted no on this bill so he could run a primary challenger against you in 2018. Carolina Republicans said Mulvaney told him, according to the Post and Courier. Sanford added that Mulvaney only delivered the message at Trump's insistence. But if the Trump administration wasn't going to take it lying down, either Amash, who fired back and began already making plans for his reelection. Amash put out a tweet saying Trump administration and establishment have merged into Trump establishment and attack conservatives, libertarians, and independent thinkers. Tweet says, "Bring it on. I'll always stand up for liberty, the Constitution, and Americans of every background." Found plenty of kindred spirits. Pro-life libertarian MASH. Fortunately, there are pro-life libertarians and small government conservatives like you leading the good fight. It's Justin Amash is a hero, and it says, "I stand with Justin Amash and Freedom Caucus. Real Donald Trump needs to stop attacking true conservatives and get back to work." Michigan Republicans also had his detractors. Mash, you're going down, moron. Trump rules. Another one says, why won't you give Trump credit for the Ford expansion announced in 2015? One person urged compromise between the two camps and tweeted, Justin Mash, get together with Trump, insurance state to state. Care sucks. And freedom obstructionist. You can't have it all. Between the president and the Freedom Caucus caused Fox News host Sean Hannity to challenge the president's assessment that Freedom Caucus was the reason the AHCA failed and urged both sides to hear one another out. The next article I have, review, it says Michelle Obama 2020 desperate presidential candidate. Let's see. I attended a dinner event where Roger Stone, news magnate, political strategist, and longtime friend and advisor to President Trump, was the featured speaker, along with plugging his new book, The Making of President 2016, and to any Russia-Trump campaign connection, WikiLeaks or Goose for 2.0 hack, Stone made an astonishing public prediction. He proclaimed that former First Lady Michelle Obama would be future presidential candidate, one who would be formidable and should not be underestimated. Given that Stone has played either an official or unofficial role in Republican presidential campaigns, starting with Richard Nixon, I should know better than to question one of his predictions. Do you really believe that Michelle Obama will run for president, even though she supposedly hates politics? Roger reiterated that he firmly believes Mrs. Obama would run, adding, just wait. Remember when I told you that Trump would win? Me? Silence on my end. Coincidentally, hours before hearing Stone's prediction, I read a piece headline for Democrats, no clear leader in the Hill, that reported, on the question of who should be a Democratic presidential candidate in 2020, Bernie Sanders led the field at 14%, followed by former First Lady Michelle Obama at 11%, Elizabeth Warren at 9%, Hillary Clinton at 8%, Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban and New York Governor Andrew Cuomo each at 4%, and television personality Oprah Winfrey and Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey each at 3%. 45% said they want to see someone not on the list of possible candidates in the survey. Seeing that poll and hearing Rogers' predictions on the same day got me thinking about who would lead the now leaderless Democrats in 2020. But instead of a name, only one word came to mind: desperation. Presidential leadership, the Democrats could resort to a brand name that is tried and true, well respected, and sure winner. Therefore, consider these 5 reasons why Michelle Obama would be formidable and should not be underestimated. 20 presidential candidate. Number 1, a slobbering media love affair. Credit for that phrase goes to Bernie Goldberg, who authorized a 2009 New York Times bestseller by a similar name. Goldberg's full title was A Slobbering Love Affair, the true and pathetic story of the torrid romance between Obama and the mainstream media. If Michelle Obama were to win the Democrats' 2020 presidential nomination, then Goldberg would only have to change the cover photo and not the title. The prospect of an African-American woman becoming the first female president would send the mainstream media into a state of sustained, orgasmic ecstasy. But voters watching the unspeakable horrors of a Trump versus Obama campaign war would demand a national distribution of Valium and earplugs. By comparison, the Trump-Clinton 2016 race would be fondly remembered as respectful and gracious. Patriotic guilt factor. It has been written that former First Lady does not like politics in general. She doesn't like the games that are played in Washington. However, if in 2019 the Democrats are still leaderless and desperate, Obama could respond favorably to Democrats' rallying cries, calling her into action. Mrs. Obama saying, I am humbled and honored to be called back into public service to save Americans from the malicious politics of President Trump. I'm ready to lead the next Obama administration guided by my values, our values, reflecting who we are as a nation. Potential candidacy could be a nifty way for President Obama third term. He would have won if not constitutionally barred from running. Or through Michelle, he could prove that brag correct. But best of all, President Obama would relish the opportunity to outdo the Clintons and crush President Trump if the election goes his way. Name ID. Since American voters are familiar with Michelle Obama, there's no need to spend millions of dollars introducing her to the electorate. Immediately, she could start criticizing President Trump while unleashing her vision. Running for president with a high name ID from day one has its obvious advantages. See President Donald J. Trump, The Apprentice, for a refresher. Furthermore, Michelle Obama would begin her campaign equal to President Trump in name ID and stature. Cash. Candidate must initially self-fund or have the ability to raise millions quickly. The former First Lady has both options covered, starting with a few trips to California and New York City. Then, if needed, with her multi-million-dollar book advance and speaking fees, Mrs. O could instantly write a huge check. Campaign engine. Number 5, reputation. Gallup poll released as the Obamas were leaving office in early January, Michelle Obama had a 68% favorable rating compared to President Obama at 58%. Mrs. Obama's favorable rating to another former First Lady turned presidential candidate, Hillary Clinton, whose rating was only 56% favorable upon leaving the White House in 2001. Michelle Obama were to acquiesce and run for president, she would come under increased scrutiny, and her favorable rating would likely drop, or maybe it would even increase, depending on Trump's job approval rating average 0.1% and the state of the nation in 2020. 2020 is a Democratic Party pipe dream. True believers can buy Save Us Michelle 2020 t-shirts and bumper stickers. You can like the Michelle 2020 Facebook page. A campaign veteran told me, no way in hell, ridiculous speculation, and it probably is. I remember back in September of 2013 when, after writing 5 reasons why a Trump 2016 run could be good news for the GOP, friends and associates laughed at me. Roger Stone's prediction. First Lady Michelle Obama's legacy was her Let's Move campaign, encouraging healthier lifestyles for kids. That means a Let's Move 2020 campaign slogan as Mrs. Obama's personal branding strategy itself. Of course, Michelle Obama's other legacy was saying that she was America until her husband got elected to the White House. My fellow Republicans, stop laughing. Remember, desperation is a powerful motivator. Desperate. The next article is off of BizPac Review. DNC chairs. Trump didn't win this election, and Republicans don't give a about people. Those who don't remember the past are condemned to repeat it. That's a lesson the new DNC chair, Tom Perez, learned from his pal, 2-time failed presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. Perez, who vowed to grow the Democratic tent after they lost the White House and both houses of Congress in 2016, insulted and alienated tens of millions of Americans during an unhinged rant. Republicans don't give an S about people, Perez shrieked at the New Jersey Working Families Alliance event in Newark. The former Labor Secretary also praised anti-Trumpers for the nationwide riots and protests they staged after President Trump was elected. He took aim at Trump, saying the billionaire doesn't represent his values, and slammed his bromance with Russian President Vladimir Putin. You don't stand for our values, Perez said of Trump. You didn't win this election. Remarks trashing Republicans received loud applause from the audience, who obviously never read the history of the Republican Party and how it championed civil rights in the United States. Last week, Tom Perez raised eyebrows after asking for the resignation of the entire staff of the Democratic National Committee. In a statement, Perez's representative said asking for mass resignations is normal during a leadership transition, even though the Democrats explained when Trump did something similar as part of his presidential transition. C has been under fire in a series of embarrassing missteps, including interim chair Bill getting caught helping Hillary Clinton cheat during the primaries by giving her debate questions in advance. Also revealed that former chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz tried to rig primaries in Clinton's favor, angering scores of Bernie Sanders supporters. WikiLeaks email dumps showed that Clinton's camp had colluded with the media to ensure positive news coverage. All these scandals have damaged the flailing Democratic Party, which many believe has alienated the working class voters and has moved too far to the left. Let's go back and see about this Gateway Pundit article. Is it going to come up? For goodness sakes. Actually, I have 3 of them here. Pundit. And they're all giving me fits. I don't know why. Well, let's see. I've got this one off of Liberty Headlines. Let's do it while we're waiting on those. GOP lawmakers admit years of Obamacare repeal votes were a sham. Estimate the role of the Affordable Care Act in the Republican resurgence. Over the last 7 years, the GOP has won successive elections by highlighting problems with Obamacare, airing more than $235 million in negative ads, staggering more than 50 high-profile repeal votes. In 2016, every major Republican presidential candidate, including Donald Trump, campaigned on a pledge to quickly. Now in total control of Congress and the White House, some GOP legislators are saying political assault on Obamacare was an exercise in politics and that an outright repeal was never on the table. We have Republicans who do not want to repeal Obamacare, said Representative Mo Brooks, Republican of Alabama, on Sirius XM Patriot on Wednesday. They may have campaigned that way. They may have voted that way a couple years ago when it didn't make any difference, Brooks continued, but now that it makes a difference, there seems to not be the majority support that we need to pass legislation that we passed 50 or 60 times over 5 or 6 years. Likewise, Meehan, Republican of Pennsylvania, one of the lawmakers who came by riding the anti-Tea Party wave in 2010 and who once elected pledged to repeal, defund, delay, and dismantle Obamacare, recently conceded in a candid interview with the Delaware County Daily Times repeal efforts were a sham. The years of votes against the ACA were simply ceremonial, knew that any serious repeal bill would be vetoed by President Barack Obama. Meehan responded, yes. Make you sick, get elected, and then they get in there and do exactly the opposite. This one off Gateway Pundit up. It says, report, Obama administration blocked Comey from last, whoops, well, it was there and then it, it's here and it's gone, it's here, it's gone. Rabbit out of my hat. All right. Report, Obama administration blocked Comey from writing op-ed last summer, meddling. Director Comey wanted to write an op-ed last summer about the so-called Russian meddling in the U.S. election, but members of the Obama administration blocked him because they wanted to release a coordinated statement from multiple agencies. Reports, according to a new report, FBI Director James Comey was set to write an op-ed last summer about suspected Russian meddling in the U.S. election. Obama administration officials, however, the piece, Newsweek reported, citing two unnamed sources. The officials, including Secretary of State John Kerry, Attorney General Loretta Lynch, Secretary Jay Johnson, and National Security Advisor Susan Rice, reportedly prefer to be communicated via a coordinated statement. Now, why on earth would an FBI director want to write an op-ed of an ongoing investigation during a presidential campaign? I have suspected here TGP is that being blackmailed by Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton had knowledge that the Trump campaign was being surveilled and used that as leverage to push Comey into attacking her opponent, Trump. Use this knowledge to pressure Comey into letting her off the hook for her email scandal. And it says in any event, FBI Director Comey needs to be fired. The FBI needs to be overhauled. He is part of the swamp and he needs to go. Let's see if these other two articles are up. Not yet. Running. It's up. Two undercover reporters hit with 15 felony charges after they uncover Planned Parenthood selling fetal tissue. Felony charges have been hurled at two undercover reporters who recorded illegal activity at Planned Parenthood, wherein the medical providers were selling fetal tissue. The videos were done by David Robert and Sandra Susan Merritt, and California prosecutors have lost their minds by attempting to prosecute with the abhorrent and disgusting California Attorney General Xavier saying the right to privacy is a cornerstone of California's Constitution and a right that is foundational in a free democratic society. We will not tolerate the criminal recording of confidential conversations. Claims that it did not profit from selling fetal tissue, but let's not forget the lesson of Acorn and James O'Keefe. Fighting the claims of criminality, saying the bogus charges from Planned Parenthood's political cronies are fake news. They tried the same conclusion with corrupt officials in Houston, Texas, and failed. Both the charges and the DA were thrown out. This is something to keep in mind when watching this story develop. Reed Center for Medical Progress's comment says the bogus charges from Planned Parenthood's political cronies are fake news. They tried the same collusion with corrupt officials in Houston, Texas, and failed. The DA were thrown out. The public knows the real criminals are Planned Parenthood and their business partners like STEM Express and Logics, currently being prosecuted in California, who have harvested and sold aborted baby body parts for profits for years in direct violation of state and federal law. We look forward to showing the entire world our yet unreleased videotapes of Planned Parenthood's criminal baby body part in vindication of the First Amendment rights of all. Wow. We'll have this one that's being, so I'll goose it again. And see if we can get the hamster to time. It's off the Gateway Pundit. It's about James Comey's secret Twitter account being exposed. But for some reason, it's not wanting to come up here on the screen, and I don't understand what that's all about. Try something else here. See if this works. For some reason, it's telling me that the site can't be reached, so I don't understand what that's about, but I do have another episode to follow, and if I can get that one to work, I'll throw it in that episode. And, well, geez, all I had to do was threaten it, huh? All right. Was James Comey's secret Twitter account exposed? James Comey recently admitted that he was secretly on Twitter and Instagram, and it seems that Gizmodo has figured out which account he is operating in stealth anymore. Says according to Gizmodo, digital security and its discontents from Hillary Clinton's emails to ransomware to Tor hacks is one of the chief concerns of the contemporary FBI. So it makes sense that the Bureau's director, James Comey, would dip his toe into the digital torrent with a Twitter account, given Comey's high profile, that he would want that Twitter account to be secret from the world, lest his and faves be subbed about what the feds are up to. What is somewhat surprising, however, is that it only took me about 4 hours of sleuthing to find Comey's account, which is not protected. The sleuth at Gizmodo was tipped off by Comey's own words regarding his Twitter and Instagram, saying, "I privacy, treasure it. An account with 9 followers, nobody is getting in. They're all immediate relatives and one daughter's serious boyfriend. I let them in because they're serious enough. Looking at my photos, I treasure my privacy and security on the internet. My job is public safety. Naturally, the next step would be to find accounts to see who they were connected to. After some trial and error, I found his 22-year-old son seemed to have the largest online presence as a basketball star at Kenyon College. Go Lords. It was easy to find Brian Comey on Twitter, though, because his first name is also father, who more people than you think might find Comey on Twitter. After finding one of Comey's sons on Instagram, a request was made to follow the account. Instagram then suggests other people to follow based on algorithm that tracks associated with this account. Oops. And let me scroll down in this if we can get the hamster to get it on up here on the page. Come on. The quick Google search of Reinhold Neuber revealed Comey was double major in religion and chemistry, writing a senior thesis on theologian Reinhold Niebuhr and televangelist Jerry Falwell way to the University of Chicago Law School. The name Reinhold Neuber led the investigation to which is now protected from public viewing. Strange how the FBI director can't even cover his own tracks on social media. Gizmodo's report here, and there's a link, where they go into more detail about how they tracked down the account and what Comey has been secretly reading on Twitter. Oh my goodness. Oh, they tracked down the FBI, man. Oh my goodness. That is just too good. You can't make this stuff up. I got another episode to follow this morning. So if you like what I'm doing here, give it a thumbs up, share it on your social media so everybody gets to enjoy the entertainment. And don't forget to subscribe. Stay informed and entertained.